Hello everyone and welcome. We've now finally arrived at Moodymaze Marsh, and I'm gonna have to say a lot of things about this stage, but I've seen that my recent two parts have been really long, so maybe I'm gonna cut it a little bit shorter this time. Anyway, so Moodymaze Marsh is the third stage and is, I can say it already, in my opinion, easily the worst stage in the entire game. But that doesn't mean that it's like completely unequivocally bad in every single aspect. It does have some good stuff in it, and I'm gonna try and take a look at that as well. And I'm also gonna tell you guys in detail why exactly I think this is the weakest stage of them all. So this stage is fairly different from pretty much every single other stage. Maybe you could argue that Capital Castina is also a very different stage, but at least from the other three stages, this stage is also very different. Now we start off once again with a little intro area like every single level has, and just like in all of the other stages, the intro area for this stage is also pretty nice. You get to use your body bubble, and you get to realize, maybe you realize this, but if you don't use body bubble you kind of get blown backwards a little bit. Well, I know a speedrun trick, so I don't actually need to worry about that, but anyway. Make it past the little entry area, you come around here, fight some dudes, get some kills on the way. You get presented with these little mushrooms, and if you try and attack them, which you probably would, you can see that, oh, you can actually attack these mushrooms and they get you some butterflies sometimes, and they're indestructible. So you might figure that out, you might not figure that out. It's not actually that important, but if you do figure it out, it's a nice little bit of extra tidbit. So up until this point, the stage has been going perfectly fine. It's shown you how body bubble works again, so you don't forget that it shows you how it works with the water currents. If you need to worry about that, it shows you the stuff is destructible. Nicely introduces the mechanics. It shows you that these guys are friendly, even though there's only like two other guys in the stage, or like one other guy. Doesn't actually matter. You might also see that you have these like thorny vines right here, and they hurt you, so you can figure that out as well. So yeah, we're learning, and I really like it when you learn stuff in video games. I feel like video games nowadays, they don't teach you as the player well enough how to play their game. And I don't mean teach the player as in, here's a pop-up that has like a wall of text on what you're gonna do, but rather just have a bunch of gameplay. Just have a bunch of gameplay that shows you, oh, this is how that works. They just naturally, by playing the game, you understand how it works. So up until this point, no problem. You get this little special thing here where it's like, oh, we have to be really careful with not touching the water too much or making too much noise in the water. So if you fall in the water or something, or you touch down on this thing too hard, can't get the pagey, so you have to figure out how to do that. There's like multiple solutions to that. One of the solutions is you can just have very fast jumps over this, where if you, as soon as you touch down on the ground, you instantly jump again, so the thing doesn't really have time to dip down into the water too much. Doesn't always work, but it still works fairly nicely. If you've gotten this move from the stage before, you can do maybe something like this. Doesn't actually change it too much. You can just try and figure out how do you want to do it, or you can just continue on, and then later on when you have fly, you come back and do the whole thing with fly. You can also maybe like try and damage boost your way somewhere else. I don't know. I haven't actually tried this, but it's probably possible. Or maybe you jump up here. Oh, it doesn't quite work. I mean, you can jump around these sides anyway, so you can kind of like go around the sides as well. Do it like this. Yeah, it has multiple solutions. You can try and figure it out yourself, but overall, this is a really nice intro. Like, I keep saying this, but every single bit of intro for all these stages is really nicely done, and like every stage already gets bonus points because of that. Like, the intro parts are really nicely done all over the place. The only minus that I would have to say about this intro part is it doesn't really tell you that nicely where you are in relation to everything. So on the first stage, and to some degree the second stage, it was very obvious that you started on the edge of the world and you sort of went from the edge towards the center, and as such you got your initial bit of like mental footing on starting your like blueprint of a map, because usually when you go through a game like this, you have like a little bit of a map in your head that you like sort of try and figure out how it works while you play along. And the intro for this stage doesn't quite do it that well, but at least gameplay wise and variety wise it does a really nice job of just presenting you with some fun stuff to do, I guess, and also teaching you some stuff like the destructible mushrooms. Now, because I guess I'm gonna go over this later, but there's a reason why this intro doesn't really tell you that much about where you are in relation to the stage. And the big reason that I'm gonna come to later in the stage is this tree right here that I'm looking at right now, this big tree. This big tree is probably the biggest reason on why this stage doesn't work correctly. And if you're like, wait a minute, are you shitting me? Why is this tree right there, this inconspicuous tree right there, the big reason as to why this stage doesn't work quite as well as the other stages, or some of the other stages at least, like stage 1 and 5? I'm gonna get back to that later, but because before I get to that, I'm gonna have to talk about a lot of other stuff, and at some point you might even realize it yourself as to why that tree right there is such a huge problem for this stage, actually. I can give you a hint. It's not, the big problem is not the tree itself, it's rather that the position that the tree is in, and what could have been there instead is the problem. Anyway, let's continue with the actual stage. So we now come over here and we kind of get some lighting and some mushrooms pointing us towards Trouser. No problem there. I do know that some people do miss Trouser because they go around here, for example, they go towards the right side. But I guess I could say that that's just people not looking around well enough, because if you come around here, surely you can kind of go like this, but you see some lights to the left, you see this mushroom over here, so I would assume that naturally you would try and look a little bit more towards the right, towards the left. And since Trouser is below some light, it's very easy to see him, I think. I guess another reason why it often gets overlooked is because some people, I was one of them, when you come to this place, you're like, lol, let's just jump around like this, because you're like, hey, I can jump around the side of the stage, and I can go over the edge and go to all these other places. I can fly around, like flutter around everywhere and break the entire stage. Wow, awesome, let's jump around like this. Like, this is like exactly what I did when I first played this game. I just jumped around like this and like just had a look around, and that makes you miss Trouser. But I guess you could argue that that's not exactly purely a problem of level design, but rather a problem of how much freedom the game gives you in general, because stuff like this happens all over the game. Of course, you can make your level design different in a way that it doesn't happen. Like, for example, I think the fifth stage does it nicer, where you get funneled towards Trouser more naturally, even though there is so much freedom. I mean, it's at a point in the game where you have fly and you still sort of get to Trouser very nicely. So I think that's pretty alright as well. But yeah, I think it's, I'm not going to give any minus points for that, but it's also not going to get any bonus points for doing it well, better than other stages, I would say. Does it as well as other stages, which can be problematic because of the freedom. So, anyway, you get to Trouser, you get your two moves, you get the Sonar Explosion, and you get the Tongue Lash. Bloop. I think you don't actually need to have the Tongue Lash. Well, why am I saying I don't think you need? I know you don't need a Tongue Lash to actually beat the game, because you can just skip World 3 entirely by doing World 3 skip, which can be done like 20 different ways. So in actual speedrun, you never actually have to even open this stage, you can just go right past it. Anyway, so you're in this stage, you see some mushrooms. You see this mushroom which, if you have the monitor turned a bit darker, looks pretty blackened, actually. But there's a quiz question as to what color this mushroom is. And if you're playing this with like a very dark monitor, it looks really black, especially from this angle. It's really black. But yeah, it's actually yellow. So that's the correct answer. It's yellow. Whatever. So now I've got the Tongue Lash, we've got Sonar Explosion, we've got these great moves, we've got a little bit into this stage. And the big problem that, like, similar to stage 2, we now have this problem of where do we actually want to go, where do we want to explore, and most importantly, do we actually have any idea where we are, and if we go into any direction, are we gonna retain that idea of where we are going and where we have been, and sort of, like I said, make this mental map in our head happen. And in this stage, it probably has the worst job out of all of these stages on actually making sure that you don't get lost right away. I needed that. So let's take a look at our options. So we can go around the side to this area, which is the most inconspicuous way to go. And then we have the other two ways. Like, this is probably the most obvious way to go because it's lit by a lantern, and if there's like... usually how it works is if you don't see like a collectible to go towards or a big landmark to go towards, then usually you would just follow the stuff that's lit. Because if, for example, if you just come in here, you would immediately, like, let me just give you this picture. What are the two things you look at? You have Trouser over here. What is this thing doing here? You have the light, this lamp ahead of you, and you could also argue that you look at Vendy, but that's also because Vendy is a lot brighter than everything around it. So that would be like the three things that you look at. You would look straight ahead to the two lanterns ahead of you, Trouser, and look at Vendy. You wouldn't look towards the right here. You wouldn't look too far further towards the left here. Usually wouldn't do that. Maybe if you, after Trouser, you have like this camera angle. If you have this camera angle, of course you would go towards this way. So most players are either going to walk towards this way if they see the lantern here, or towards the left side if they have this camera angle after talking to Trouser. Those are like the two ways that I can imagine. I don't actually think that players are going to go over here that much. Players are not going to go over here that much. So let's explore over there first. Now, because I know this stage very well, I can already tell you that these two ways you can go there are mostly the same because they are both part of a circle. And we're gonna go across by going around here. So we've got a little bit of a test. Hey, do you remember that you have this move, this sonar explosion? And you just, if you remember that you have it from these 5 seconds ago when you bought it over there, you can get yourself a Pagey. Oh, isn't that great? And you also get introduced to Wally, the yeah boy kind of character, which, what a great guy. And you also get introduced to this little maze over here, which you can't do anything from this side. So at least in this place it's actually fairly alright. Like, the first part of this stage is, it has some problems once again, but I would say that the first part of the stage is probably still the highlight, I would say, of this stage. So because like I said, there are like two ways that you would usually go, and if you went this way, you get the page over there, you come over here, very linear path. You can see that there's a lot of like stuff over here that hurts you, so you don't even assume that you would go that way. You would just immediately go this way, which is nice because there was nothing over there. There was nothing over on that side, so instead let's just go over this way. And if you come over here, we get introduced to Ollie, and another path that is blocked by a lot of like stuff that hurts you, so you don't go this way. So instead, you just talk to him, you do the maze, and after you've done the maze, which gameplay-wise has a few problems, but I assume everyone that's played this game and done this maze at least like once or twice will understand what I mean when I say this maze has a few problems. But I mean, if you know how the maze works, like if you've played it like once or twice and you figure it out, then like the next time, like the third time or the fourth time, then it's totally alright. And you can just breeze through it very quickly, and it doesn't really make too much of a difference anymore that it has problems, because they can be counteracted. So at this point, nothing too spectacularly bad has happened, I would say. At this point, up until this point, everything has been totally fine, I would say. Well, not totally fine, like I said, some problems, but been mostly fine. And if we walk back over here, we will actually realize that now we like sort of circle back towards Trouser. So if you had gone the other way, you would have entered from here, very naturally have done the maze, maybe after the maze have turned back again because you're like, oh, I just did the maze, but let me check the side of the maze, because you haven't checked the side yet. But because it's very obvious that there's nothing on the side of the maze, you just sort of go past that again, and then you go to the other side, you get the, yeah boy, pagey from Wally, and come back here, and good job, you've just explored a bunch of the stage, and it's been pretty alright so far. You can also check up here, and from this point onwards you can also go over here, and I think there's a ghost rider here, the red one, which is very obvious to find. I don't think many people miss that one. You can also go over here. The stuff over there is stuff that is not actually there yet when you come into the stage, because it's part of the expansion. But I mean, you can kind of see that there's like these platforms with pumpkins on it, so you're like, okay, I guess this is where the expansion goes. Yeah, it sort of tells you already where the expansion goes. So after that, you've done with the first part, you come over here, and you pretty much have to go into this water right here. But the thing is, what I've noticed is that a lot of people at this point, they sort of try and test the freedom of the game a little bit. This happens to pretty much everyone. Okay, maybe not exactly everyone, but this happens to a lot of people that I've watched. Like, I've watched like 15 people play through this game. Obviously, I have my own experiences as well. I think one of the big problems is because you can so easily go around the edge of the stage and try and jump around like this. Like, the edge of all of these areas are not actually that restrictive, because you can jump on all of these places right here, and you can have your own little parkour stuff and go wherever you want. You can be like, oh, let's just go over here or whatever. Okay, this is actually an invisible wall. Woo! But for the most part, you can go almost everywhere you want around here. You have complete freedom. You can be like, oh, let's just do this. This is, oh my god, let's just go over there. Man, I can do all this stuff. You can do whatever you want in this stage. And I think in this stage, it hurts a lot more than all of the other stages that you have this freedom. Because the problem is, this stage doesn't have any good landmarks to look at. It just doesn't have any good landmarks to look at, other than like one example at the very end of the stage that you can also only see from the end of the stage. So, because you don't have good landmarks, good weenies as I would call them, that you could take a look at, and because most of the time when you run around the ground right here, your view is blocked so much everywhere. Even in the more open areas, like right here, there's a bit more of an open area, you still can't see that far. You can't see that much because your view is blocked everywhere. So because your view is blocked everywhere, of course you naturally try and get a better view by going upwards, and you sort of like try and test the freedom. And because it's so easy to get up here, it feels very natural as well to just do like 1 or 2 hops and get up here and like try and jump around a little bit more, and maybe you get drawn from one part to the next. And this drives home how quickly you get lost in here. The mixture of not seeing that much and the ease of the freedom of breaking free of your regular path makes it so that it's extremely easy to not have an idea of what's actually going on in this stage. It's so easy in this stage to get lost and like being unable to figure out where you are. So I've played this stage, like through this stage, like 15 to 20 times so far. Yeah, because I've speedrun this game a lot. So I've played through this game like through the stage like at least 15 to 20 times so far, and I still could not for the life of me give you like an aerial view of this map. Like if I were to open up Paint right now, or GIMP rather, and like sort of like draw in on where I think everything is in the stage, I just couldn't do it. I would do like really weird stuff. I mean, I can give you my ideas. I think like you have this like first island right here where you start with little side islands over to the left of this, over to the west rather. I would say this is north probably. And then to the east you have another sort of island, but I don't even know how big that is. It's probably bigger than the first one. I don't know. It might be way smaller actually, because a lot of stuff is above ground. Then you have to the north of that, you have this sort of circular one. Is it even circular? It might be rectangular actually. Actually, I think it's rectangular, sort of like island with the little pool in the middle that you can cleanse and then swim down there with the piranha transformation, which is a really cool transformation, by the way. And I think then to the north of the starting island and to the west of the last island is the expansion area. Right? No, but the expansion area is a bit sort of like shifted towards the east, because it doesn't actually go. I confuse myself so I can't do it. But I can do it for pretty much any other stage. You tell me to draw you in GIMP any other stage of this game in an aerial view, I'm gonna give you a pixel perfect representation of that map off the top of my head easily. I might get the distances wrong on the second stage a bit, because distances on that stage are a bit awkward to judge, but I could probably do a really good job on that as well. But for this stage, I'm completely flustered. I have like no idea how to actually do that, how to actually give you an accurate representation of this map. And like something that I've said earlier in my review as well, in case you did watch my Yooka-Laylee review, is that you could say, well, obviously this stage, the Moodymaze Marsh, is supposed to be a maze, but I don't. You could say, you could defend it like that, but I don't think that's a very good defense, because simply put, there shouldn't be a maze like this in a game, in a collectathon like this. I mean, obviously you can put something like this in it, and with various level design tricks you can make it work, but this stage does not make it work. It's extremely easy to make a maze not work, and it's extremely hard to make a maze work in a collectathon. Why? Because in a collectathon, your goal is to collect everything. That's what your goal is. And in order to collect everything, you want to have an idea of where you have been, how well you have explored areas, and what areas are left to explore. That, if you, like these 3 points that I just mentioned, if a stage makes sure to be good in these 3 aspects, then the stage feels really nice to play through and to go through. But if a stage fails any of these 3 aspects, like you can't really tell where you've been, or you can't really tell if there are any areas left that you haven't been to yet, then it can feel really bad to play through in a collectathon, because now suddenly your main goal of collecting everything has been compromised. And it starts to feel really bad. It's sort of really, like I think that the best way I could describe it is if a stage fails these 3 points, it feels like you're wading through tar when you're playing that stage. Like it feels like you're not going anywhere. It feels like all the parts that you've gone through you've not actually cleared, so you're gonna have to go back to it. You don't know, you have no idea where any of the collectibles could potentially be, so you're gonna have to look through every single nook and cranny, look at every single corner. I say this rock, like, could there be anything around here, because the stage just doesn't do a good job of telling you where stuff could be or where stuff could not be. So that's how you can make a stage really bad, and I have to say that this stage does fail quite a bit on all 3 of these aspects. And to bring it back to the original point that got me on this big rant, is it's mostly because, like I said once again from the start, from the ground you can't see a whole lot around you, there's no important landmarks to look at, and it's very easy to break free from those constraints, go to a higher level, go to the edge of the arena, but at that point you don't actually have any systematic plan anymore on how you want to go through all of these areas, and once your plan starts evaporating, you no longer have any notion of where you have been. So now now that you don't know anymore where you have been, now that you can't trust the stage anymore with where collectibles could be placed, because you can so easily go everywhere, and if you can't go up here that easily, then maybe there's items up here, you don't know that anymore. And also, it becomes very hard to see where you want to go, and you get lost on where you have been. So, to sum it all up, I guess I could say that this is probably the big problem with this stage, and I'm probably gonna say the same thing again in my verdict, but yeah, I guess I've kind of given you the verdict already with what I just said. But to kind of actually continue, now that I've gone on this big ramble, to actually continue with the stage now, I actually didn't go through that water tunnel on my first stage, and I've seen other people, not that many people, but I've seen some people do the same thing, like here, where you go around here, like this. Or maybe you go to this place from somewhere else. Maybe you damage boost through the poison goo. Maybe you damage boost through the goo, I don't know, and then swim around here somewhere. Like, I've seen people not actually go through the water tunnel and then later on the stage be like, wait a second, that's a different water tunnel from the one from the start? I mean, I've also seen other people see that water tunnel, go in it, and then be like, wait a second, I thought there was the water tunnel that leads back to the start. Huh? Because, yeah, because no landmarks means no orientation. And having a mace is not a good thing. By the way, on this save file I actually got all the pirate treasure, but I never actually got the achievement for it, interestingly enough. There's a pirate treasure right here. Anyway, so now you come to something that could have potentially been a landmark, but fails to actually be a landmark because you can barely see it from any other point in the stage, which is this like pumping station here and these like little pipes around it. But yeah, like I said, you can't actually see these from many points, from pretty much any other point in the stage. Like you can't even see it from the first island over there, so it fails as a landmark. The pumping station right here has this nice little mini game in it where you have to blow the cube around. I personally like it. I think it's a cool little thing. What I found maybe could have been done better is this place right here where you have to maneuver this part right here to get to this pagey in time. I feel like it just needed a little bit more because it feels too easy. Once you've got the underwater movement down, it feels too easy and too uneventful. It's just like press button, go to pagey, done. I feel like that could have been done something more interesting down there. But it's not a big deal. It's a small thing. It is a very small thing. So then you come over here. This door. This is like my 100% save file that I've played a lot of time in, and I've never actually pressed this button. Never. This is how useless this gate right here is, and how little you don't actually look at it. So after that, you come around. Once again, you instantly break around. You do stuff like this. I mean, this is how I played the stage for the first time. This is how many people play this stage. You just sort of do random stuff like this. I played for this entire stage before even realizing that there was a box here that you were supposed to pull down from the other side. I never even realized that. I came to this point, I was like, oh my god, a box? Is this a new place? And then I went up there and I was like, oh wait a second, this is not a new place. I've been here before. It's so easy to break free. This area over here as well has actually nothing in it apart from some quills and a ghost. Could have been something more in. I mean, it's just a place to walk around in, and you sort of get to this shortcut over there, which I never actually took because not actually that important. The other shortcut is more important. There's another shortcut later in the stage in the expanded area, I think, that you'd rather take. Anyway, so we've already been through the entire second island already, and can you tell me right now where everything is on this second island? Yeah, neither can I. I know that on this side you have the pumping station, but that's about it. Like, on the first island you could kind of get an idea on where stuff is, kind of, but now this second island, it's a mess. I'm sorry, but there's no other way to say it, because you can't look at anything important from anywhere on this part of the island. It's so easy to jump over everything, and you slip around a bit, and now suddenly you're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, yeah, this leads to whoops, a pagey. And if you then turn around, you can kind of maybe see that over there you have the play coin, which is up there. Up here is the play coin, I think. It's a play. Yeah, it's a play coin, and I don't know. It feels like maybe they could have. I don't know what they could have done with the second island. Maybe make the second island. This is what I call this right here. Like half the size. Cut out the stuff down there, and make the platforms over here instead be over the over on this side right here. Over on this side, and by making it like this, you could maybe have a better idea on where stuff is. Like, of course, if you make stuff more linear and smaller, you get a better idea of where stuff is. But you know, sometimes you just have to do exactly that. Maybe sometimes you just have to cut stuff if it just is only there to confuse. Like, this entire half of this island, pretty much is only there to confuse you as the player. And I really don't like that. Because there's nothing important there, you can't see anything from it. The same points that I've said over and over and over again, just keep applying to everything over here. So now we're done with the second island. I know it doesn't even feel like I even in my review that I'm doing right now, where I'm saying I'm going for the entire stage, it still doesn't feel complete. Like, you're gonna turn around, you're gonna say, wait, you've not done everything on this island, but yes, I have done everything on that island, actually done 100% complete. Even that I've played through this game like so many times, I'm still confused. Actually, I'm still wondering if I've actually done everything on that island. Even now, I'm trying to double guess myself. Did I actually do everything on that island? I actually did. I'm pretty sure I did. So you can come over here and there's a little ghost here. I think that's a pretty nice place. I like this part over here. This is alright. You have this little log part over here, which is alright. This log part is, in my opinion, a better connector between islands than the water tunnel. Because the water tunnel, like I said, can be missed, but this log area is... You can kind of see it from between the islands and be like, oh yeah, this is the connector, I see. So no problems there. What? I was supposed to kill him with that. Anyway. So now I come to the third island, after collecting some quills on the like little log ride there. And on this third island, you can now either go towards the left over here, which just has a little puzzle in it, just a very small linear path, which is alright. You can come over here and talk to, I have no idea what this guy is, and sort of do this and start your adventure on this island, where you cleanse the pool down there. And what I don't like is this area over here though. I mean, the pool in the area in the middle and what I've gone through right now, yeah, the stuff over there, that was alright, but this side area over here, it perplexes me a bit. Because if you walk around here, it looks like this is a path. I mean, it even has a tunnel right here. They put some effort into this. And look at the stuff on the ground. It's like, it's not just green, it's like a little bit of stuff. There's like another tunnel over here. They put some effort into this area over there. But it's an edge area where there's nothing there. Is area over there? It's completely pointless. There's nothing over there as far as I know. Like, I don't think there's like quills here in the actual stage. I mean, I'm gonna probably get a comment that says, oh no, there are quills over there, but I'm actually fairly certain there aren't any, right? I mean, even I have to second guess myself, and like I said, I've 100% of the stage, like at least 10 times already, and I even can't tell you if there's quills over here. Because this area is a little bit of a contradiction almost. Because, like I said, they put effort into making sure there's like walkable paths over there where you can walk around. There's a tunnel that looks like something significant, it could be. But at the same time, it's also completely nothing. It's also there to just be there, and there's nothing there. So what do you even do with this part? Nothing. Another one of these parts in this stage just confuses you for no reason. Adding to that sort of maze, like it sort of adds to the maze thematic of this stage, which, like I said earlier, is highly problematic in itself. So we also have this big pool down here, which is alright. Maybe they could have added some more gameplay around the walking around part like here, because there's not actually anything around this side of the pool, or in majority of this pool. Like, this pool pretty much only exists to have these connecting pipes on the side. So why is there a big area around here? I don't know, maybe they could have added something there, but this is another one where I would say this is just a small thing. I don't mind the fact that there's not that much down here in this pool. It's alright. It's not too big of a problem, I'd say. So down here is where the molecule is. You turn that in, you get the piranha, which is probably one of the coolest transformations in the entire game. Maybe even the coolest transformation in the entire game. It's just slightly better, in my opinion, than the galleon, I would call it, from the final stage. I think they call it a battleship or something, but I'd say it's a galleon. It's called Galleon Galaxy, you know, that's why. Anyway, so you get the piranha, you go down here, or you go down here without the piranha as well, and you go into these side areas. Now these side areas, I would say these are also totally fine. I would say these side areas, I like them. The one you go in as a piranha, where you like eat some stuff and get yanked around by the currents. The one where you hit, no, hot switch hollow is not on this one. The one where you, no, actually this one in here where you hit a switch and then you disperse your bubble. And then you get dragged along by the current to make it through the gate before it closes. And that place also has a really nice natural progression in it, where it starts easy to explain you the rules and then gets progressively harder and more interesting. And I really like that area. I mean, in general, the like sort of side areas, these sort of mini puzzles that are on the side of these stages, that we also saw in the Ice Magic Palace in stage 2. And the sort of like tunnels down here as well, they're all done really well. And I think they're some of the greatest parts of this game, these like side areas. I think they're done really well. There's some really awesome side areas in the 5th stage as well. So I think this is where the level design is done really well. Because like I said, it presents you with a simple problem, then cranks up the difficulty while making sure to never overwhelm you or make stuff too difficult. But still making sure that it feels difficult, because it gets progressively harder and more complex in their problems. And then at the end you get rewarded and you're like, oh, I earned that. It feels rewarding. It feels nice to play, nice bit of variety in the gameplay as well. I like it. But yeah, those are the good parts of this stage. These side areas. So now we're on the other side of this entire area. I really have no idea where this part over there is for. I think this part over there with the plank in the water and the platforms over there is to make it out of the water and up here. But I don't actually think I ever go up there, because even if I don't have fly, I still usually just find some other random parts to go around the side. I think you can even go around here. Yeah, I think this is how I usually go up here without fly. So I don't actually use this side area, but whatever. Pants. So now we have the last bit of area in this stage, and if you actually somehow did go through this stage in a linear path, you probably still don't feel like you've been everywhere, but at least I currently, in the path that I've taken right now, have probably been everywhere. So I come around here to what could have been a really nice landmark everywhere, this giant octopus station. This, I mean, many people don't even realize that this thing looks like an octopus, because you don't actually get to see it from afar, ever. Like, whenever did you get to see this thing from afar? Like this, you have this giant rock with a tree right in front of it, blocking the path, blocking the view from it from really far away. And there's another tree right here, blocking it from the first area in the game, so you can't actually see it. Like, guys, this thing looks like a really cool octopus. It actually looks really awesome. This thing actually looks really awesome. But you don't ever get to see it correctly, because by the time you actually have a clear shot of it, you're already right in front of it. Why? This thing looks so awesome. Also, this thing would have been a really nice, awesome experience to like scale this thing. Like, imagine if you had to like get up there with some platforms on the side, some other stuff. Oh, that would have been so nice if you got to see this thing from afar and then got to climb it. Oh my god, that would have been so awesome. Could you have imagined that? And then at the top they could have put the entrance to the boss fight. Oh my god. The boss fight itself is, in my opinion, it goes on for a bit too long, but it's okay for the most part. Then you can come to the side where you will find Cardos. Oh, you're right. I mean, it is a bit sad that they have this really awesome looking set piece, this like octopus station. It's a really awesome looking set piece and landmark, and it had so much potential in it. But the only thing you ever see of this thing is these pipes on the side and the entrance. You don't actually get to see all of this cool stuff up there. You don't see it from a distance, you don't get to climb it. It's a big shame, actually. It's a really big shame. But there's something of a little bit of a smaller thing. There's some quills over on the side of this thing that only spawn after you've extended the world, which I found absolutely ridiculous, because the expansion of the stage doesn't even change anything in this area. So yeah, you wouldn't actually come back to this part. So if you never come back to this part after the expansion, why are there quills now here that are not here before? Because this stuff already exists before the expansion, so Why are the quills not there? Weird. Anyway, that was the regular stage. I know, it didn't feel complete. It really didn't feel complete, but it was complete, believe me. Believe me. So now let's go a bit further back towards the start of the stage and figure out what the expansion stuff is like. I have to say the expansion stuff is mostly alright. I actually like the expansion part. This is where the expansion stuff starts. So this is the first island over to the left. And then you come over here after crossing these logs and you make it to this island. Kill this guy. Guys, kill this guy. And then you get this little like side area over here where you jump around some stuff. You get this cage, it comes down on you. Alright stuff. You come over here and you get to these little like wooden buildings that I really don't know what the point of them is. Because I know, of course, you can jump around them and you can sort of like use your tongue to... Which doesn't work quite that well actually. To like slurp around. I think I'm supposed to do it from this angle, right? It doesn't actually work that well. So you sort of use to slurp around to go that much. Go around this stuff. But I think one of the... These wooden buildings could have added a little bit of nice bit of variety, and to some degree they do add a nice bit of variety in this otherwise not that great looking stage by having like some sort of something to look at. It's like some wooden metal sheet buildings. They've got some platforms you can pull out. That's why it adds a little bit of gameplay variety as well. But I think the problem with all of these parts is, with all these buildings is, you don't even, you can just go around them. You don't even need to go and go up at them. Like, I mean, I just went past all of them. So, yeah, I don't know why they gave you that path to the side. And even without that path, you can like kind of just go over here and like jump around. Like, imagine if that stuff down there wasn't here, that would still make it all the way over here. So, I don't know. Once again, a little bit of missed opportunity of making this stuff also feel unique. But you know, I mean, at this point, because the side area is there, you can just walk over. Now the only reason why these buildings are here is there's quills on them, I think. So yeah, it's that. But at least it's still better than some of the other parts in this area and the stage. Then you have this little pagey over here, which you have to tackle from another direction. I mean, if you come up here, by the way. Oh, nice. Did you see that cornering? Oh, damn. Oh, so interesting. You come up here and you don't know what to do. It's very easy to see that there's fire over there. Which, by the way, you can grab to like that. I think you can even do it like this. Yep, if you do like that, by the way, you can grab the pagey out of this thing without having to open it. So, yeah, this is how you got the pagey out of there without actually opening this thing. Anyway, ignore that for a second. If you come over here and you see this, you're like, wait, how do I do this? There's this fire right there and I can't do anything. The game shows you pretty much by looking at this angle. If you look at the stuff from this angle, which is obvious to look at because this is the closest thing you have to look at, and there's like the roaring fire right here. So you wonder how to open this. You see the roaring fire over there and you're like, oh, this looks significant. And then you see this little path down there. So I think this is actually one of the good parts, like the really good parts of the level design. The roaring fire that you see up here and the problem of how to open this cage very naturally makes you look in this direction. And if you naturally look in this direction, you see the path down there, and by seeing the path down there, you might understand that, oh, I go down there, and then from here, I can maybe figure stuff out. Now, one thing to note is that I often say stuff like, oh, the player gets guided around visually by this and that. Obviously, you can say like, oh, it didn't work for me, I totally missed this, or I see plenty of people not do this. But the thing is, stuff like this is not something that you like consciously understand. Stuff like this is only that you understand if it's either there or not there and you see the difference or you notice the difference. Like if you were to look at Portal levels, Portal 1 and 2, and you were to look at those levels and then see a comparison of the level like they are in the game and then the level without lighting, without the important stuff being lit up, you would notice a huge difference Because I could give you a picture of the stage, how it normally looks with the lighting, and then you could do like, what you would call it? You could do like this sort of experiment where you give someone these like weird glasses that are able to analyze where someone is looking on the screen, and you could do that experiment with like 100 people, and people, if they see the normal stage, they would very naturally with their eyes look at the important stuff that's lit up. I could say there's a surface that you have to portal to and it has a light on top of it. You would instantly, whoa, look at it. And then there's another light on another surface, boom, you look at that very easily, like these are the 2 points. And then you look at the entire thing again without lighting, and you would notice that people would look all over the place and they wouldn't know where to look. Where do you look? I don't know. But now because you have this lighting, if you play through that game and you have the portal gun, then you maybe go like, oh, I shoot a portal on this one, I shoot a portal on this one, and that's how you solve the puzzle. Whoa, nice. But you don't sit there and go, oh, like you don't say this like consciously out loud, or you don't even think this consciously, where you go, oh, the reason why I solved this puzzle is because I looked at the lighting which caught my eyes, and because I looked at the lighting and then figured out that it must be important, that's how I figured out this puzzle. That's not what people consciously do. It happens subconsciously. It's just what your eyes get boom snapped to. So if you ever go through a level and your eyes naturally snap to something, chances are it's probably intended that your eyes snap to that, because the level designer knows what they're doing. And I assume at this point, I don't want to say that this was unintentional. I think this was intentional, that by looking over towards this, the natural next point of like, oh, I have a problem, how do I open this? There's a roaring fire right here. Boom, eyes snap down here, all of these platforms. I think that's intended. I want to give the level designer that much credit. I mean, I'm saying a lot of bad stuff about the level design and all these other places, but I mean, like I said, there are places in this game where I do want to give the level design credit, because I don't think this was unintentional, because I think this was intentional. I'm pretty sure it was intended. Anyway, continuing on. At the start of this video I said I was going to make this faster, but I don't think I really have. But I think we're almost done with this stage, so yeah. You can come over here where you have another side area. I like the intro to the side area, because in order to get here, you have to roll over a ramp that is slanted to the side, and you can see that it descends down into the swamp while you go over it. So it also, before you even get into the side area, you have already learned what you have to have learned to do the stuff that you have to do in that side area. Really like that. Naturally trains you already before even going in on what is going to be the next part of the game. I really like that. Then you have another area down here with a really cool side area called Hot Switch Hollow. You also get a health extender down there. Really nice stuff. This pool is alright. This pool is also a lot smaller than the other one, and I think... But it also doesn't have that much in it. I think it could still be a little bit smaller or have more stuff in it, but I like this pool. I actually like this pool more than the other one. It sounds weird that I say this. I like this pool more than the other one, but it's true. It's true. There's this little area where the camera actually stays in place a little bit to show you how to get up here. The big problem that I found a bit awkward is that after you make it up here, the camera snaps back again. So the camera is in this angle to give you a better way of making these jumps happen. But as soon as you get up here, the camera snaps to... it doesn't snap. The camera is normal again. What am I doing? At this point, the camera is normal again. Which actually makes sense, because now your camera spinning 360 degrees actually makes sense. But it can disorient you a tiny bit because of the snapping. Boom, snap. Camera snapping is always something that you have to be really wary about. In this case, it doesn't actually matter too much. It's just something that I noticed, but for the most part, it doesn't actually matter too much if the camera snaps there, but it's something to be aware of. So you can go over here, you can... Is that a double thing? Oh my god. You can get that, go up there, feed the guy, it doesn't really matter. All right place in the middle. And you come over here, you've got another shortcut back to the start, you've got the another Clara thing. Nothing too important to talk about here. I mean, the expansion area is fairly solid. It doesn't do anything too great, but it also doesn't fail anything. So it's just a solid part of the level. It's just a solid part of the level. You also have this part over here where you can start a gauntlet. By the way, why can you only ever start this gauntlet if you have tongue lash. I mean, I can understand that you want the player to be able to make it all the way over here and actually complete the gauntlet with this. But as a speedrunner, I get here when I have fly, so I could have just used fly to do all that stuff, so I can't do it because the guy only ever starts the quest, starts the timer if you have tongue lash. Interesting thing to note. Anyway, so you do this little gauntlet over here. This gauntlet is pretty nice. It tests your abilities by, once again, it gives you a simple idea. You use tongue lash a lot to traverse from platform to platform while being on a timer and having to make it through the rings. A simple idea, and it progressively gets harder, throws different stuff at you, like spinning platforms, like fire, like, oh my god, quickly pull out this thing there and then jump on top of it. So I like the fact that it, once again, is well designed. Simple stuff that gets progressively harder are always pretty nice. One thing I don't understand is why these platforms over here even exist, because this pipe exists and it takes you back down all the way to the bottom, and if you actually now turn around and look up, you see that this is where the platforms this is also where the platforms lead to. So what was the point of that platform? All of these platforms up there, I don't actually know. That's it's a bit awkward, but I wouldn't say it's a problem or anything. Just a bit awkward. Then we come over here to the other side. Well hidden quill behind this fire, by the way. And have this little side area where you do the where you go and use your tongue lash, or not use your tongue lash if you don't know it works, to get these fruit or seeds rather to the corresponding parts. I don't know if these like seeds could have been made more obvious that tongue lash works on them, but if it does or if it doesn't actually matter too much, at least in my opinion, because it's still possible without. It's just a lot harder. So I don't know. I guess it would have been nicer if it was more obvious that you could use tongue lash on them. Maybe have another point in the game where you see that, oh, stuff that has this like white outline, that like white swirling outline, that's stuff I can tongue lash to. Because up until this point, the only thing you think you can tongue lash are these really awkward, these cool looking actually, like signets on the side of platforms or on the side of boxes where you're like, oh, this is stuff that I can tongue lash. So you get pretty much trained in your head that this is the stuff that you can tongue lash, so some people don't think that other stuff could be tongue lashed as well that doesn't have that signet on it. So maybe the game could have taught the player that a bit better in the level design or in the game design, some other way, that hey, don't just look for the signet, look for the white swirly outline for stuff that's tongue lashable. So yeah. Anyway, now I've gone through pretty much the entire stage. The expansion area, like I said, is alright. I don't like the fact that it doesn't do anything special with the base stage, but yeah, that's something that every stage has to worry about, as a side note. So, now that we've gone through the entire stage, I've pretty much kind of already given the worry at the start of this, but there's some actually really important stuff that I haven't really touched on yet, and that stuff that I want to touch on was not just this tree over there, I'm gonna get to that tree, but also the fact that this is a swamp and has, or a marsh rather, I would call it. It has this like poison stuff everywhere around here, like poison swampy stuff that if you touch it, bah, it hurts you. You can kind of swim in it, you can't dive in it, but it hurts you. And maybe you can even do out of bounds with this, let's see. Out of bounds. Ah, come on. Doesn't quite work. I thought it would to more places. Anyway, the fact that this stage has this poison stuff in here, I think is actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good. I said this in stage 2, that one of the problems with Glitterglaze Glacier is that there's so much unused space all around the center of the level, where you have the entire big pool, this like little lake that's down there, where you have so much water with almost nothing in it, and it just spans all over the place. And I said that it was probably better if instead the stuff that's in the water was put somewhere else, and instead the water was made that it hurts you, because then suddenly it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of wasted space anymore. It feels like, oh, there's space that I just can't go to. Totally fine, no problem. But if it's space that you can go to and there's nothing there, it feels very empty. It feels like wasted space. But in this stage, whoops, almost dropped my controller. Now I accidentally hit a button that I didn't mean to hit. Let me close this. Okay. But in this stage, it actually does do that, where it doesn't feel like all of this like poison, swampy stuff is wasted space, because it's not an area where it's like, oh, there could have been, this area could be explorable, but there's nothing there. It's explorable area with nothing there, empty, wasted space. Nope. It's very obvious to the player that this is not area, this is not space to be explored. It's just not. So the player doesn't really mind it too much, I would argue. So that, at least on a side note, that's at least another part that makes the stage a little bit better. A little bit better. So, now back to the stuff that I originally said on why this tree. I guess you could also expand it, where is it? This tree over here, and you could also expand it to the tree to the right of this as well. So, let's take a look at these two trees. Okay? These two trees. Why are these two trees such a big problem? I guess maybe even the other trees as well. I guess I could also expand it to pretty much all of the trees in here, or most of the trees that go really high and block your view. So why would I say that these trees here in the center are such a big problem? And I gave you the hint that it's not that the tree is there, it's not the tree itself, it's rather that it's what could have been there. So let's look at something of a different example. Let's say these trees over on this side of the stage that go across here, which if you were to look at the stage in an aerial view, I think this line of trees is pretty much the center of the entire stage. Like in the center of the entire stage you have this line of trees that blocks your view from everywhere. And the problem is, like I already said, these trees, they block your view from anywhere in the stage. It's really hard to see anything else from any other part of the stage because of these trees blocking your way. And you could say, well, once again, it's deliberate because it's a maze, but I also will once again say that the fact that it is a maze that's supposed to get you lost is in complete contradiction to what a collectathon should be about. I'm not going to go over that again. I've already talked about that at length on why having a maze that you get lost in is really bad in a collectathon. And if you look back at Banjo-Kazooie didn't have maze levels. It did have mazes at some points, like in the pyramid, or in Moodymaze Mansion, in Mad Monster Mansion on the side. But as you might understand, the little maze on the side of Mad Monster Mansion, for one, there wasn't anything collectible in it, which, okay, the first time you go through it, you don't know that. But that area doesn't feel very nice, does it? It doesn't feel like a very nice area, that maze over there, does it? And it doesn't, and I think the developers kind of knew that as well, which is why they didn't put anything too important on that maze. And the same thing goes for the pyramid maze. It doesn't quite tell the player that well enough, but in that pyramid maze, oh my god, there's nothing actually too important in there apart from the switch. And the thing is, you could say, well, maybe there's notes in there, but there are no notes in there. And the switch, the thing about the switch is, if you go through that maze and you make it to the very end, you see that the switch is there, because the switch is directly one wall next, across one wall and next to the exit. So if you make it to the exit, you see that there is a switch there. So when you go through it, you're like, oh my god, there's a switch, I can see the switch, I'm gonna try and get it. And now you could say, well, the maze would have still been a lot better if the maze told me from the start, like, oh, there are no notes in the maze, or there's nothing too important in the maze. apart from the switch, and you're gonna see the switch at the end anyway. Like, of course, that would have made the maze better, but once you know that, oh, there's nothing in this maze that I have to collect, the maze suddenly feels a lot better. Because all you just have to get to the end. It's as simple as that. Just get to the end. Awesome. And I'm pretty sure they understood that having that maze would have been really bad if it had notes in it, because now suddenly a lot of problems happen, and I've already gone over these problems. So yeah, I'm not gonna go too deep into that. I've also wasted too much time on it. But yeah, so much for that at least. So where have I actually been before I got onto this weird tangent? Oh yeah, we've talked about this. So yeah, these trees really make it so you get a lot more lost, because now you can't actually look at other parts of the stage. And if you could look at other parts of the stage from different parts, then you would have a lot easier of a time to find out where you are, where you have been, where you want to go, where you have explored stuff, and so on. Now, let's say all of these trees over here that led to over here were gone. All of them. You know what would happen? You know what awesome little thing could happen? Now, if all of these trees were gone, you know what you would see if you were to look across? Oh yeah, I'm talking about this awesome looking building over there. You would see the octopus station from the first island if these trees weren't there. Can you imagine how great that would be? Can you just imagine that? I mean, also don't forget, if you look really far into one of these areas, it gets like blackened. You can see it's like blackened over there. But imagine you come into the stage, you get to the edge of the first island, you look across onto this great swamp. On the side of the swamp, you see other areas. You're like, oh, I can see there's other areas, okay? That's not too important, but yeah, at least you get to see the other areas, and you look across the middle, and what's smack bang in the middle of your face? What's smack bang in the middle of your face? Something that is very obviously on the exact opposite of the stage. So now you've got also some spatial, how would I say this? So now I've got a bit better of an idea of how everything works together spatially. That, oh, I'm now at one edge of the stage, and on the other edge of the stage, like directly across from me, across the center. Oh, I know where the center is now, by the way. Across the center, what do you see? What awesome looking thing do you see? Let me see if I can get a good look, which is really hard with this, by the way. You can kind of see it over here if you look towards the side. You see, oh, I think I know how to get a good idea. Controlling the camera with the flight is actually horrible. I said this before, that flight controls are not that great and they could have done a lot better. But anyway, what do you actually see? You see the blackened silhouette, the blackened outline of this awesome looking building over there. And look at that in the distance. How evocative does it look to see that outline of this giant octopus building, and then you see the like two eyes pop into view. How evocative is this image over there? How evocative is that? How awesome would it be to come into this stage from the first island and see across, like I have to say it again because it would have looked so awesome, across the entire stage, across the center, very obviously the other side of the entire area. You see the blackened silhouette of this awesome looking octopus building. Maybe the two eyes even glow a bit, so you see the two eyes glowing. Oh my god, how awesome would that have been? Oh my god, that would have been so great. Oh my god, I would have fucking creamed myself if I went into a stage and saw that across. Oh my god, that would have been so awesome. But instead, most people have never even seen this thing in its entirety. Most people don't even know this is an octopus as a building. And it saddens me. It saddens me a lot. It saddens me so much that so much work has been put into this building and it looks so awesome. And it is set up, I mean, like landmarks and weenies, they don't have to be in the center, like in the first stage where you have the temple in the center. It doesn't have to be. If you come into this stage on the first island and you see that across at the other end, it still does a really nice job, because you're like, oh, I'm on one end, this is on the other end, and between that we have the center, and on the left on that we have an island, on the right on that we have an island. The left island is only available if you have it expanded. Oh my god, that would have been so much better. Ah! And instead it's wasted. Instead all of it is wasted. And what do we have? Fucking trees. What do we have instead? Fucking trees. Why? Why do we have, instead of this really awesome image, just fucking trees? Similar thing as second stage. We could have had these awesome castle looking things that are around everywhere. Maybe some of the castle stuff fell into the water and now it's halfway flooded. Oh, how awesome would that have been? What do we have instead? Frozen pillars. I'm actually getting really worked up over this. I'm getting more worked up over this than I thought it would be. Because, oh my god, imagine if that tree over there, imagine if this tree line wasn't there. How awesome would that thing look? Ah! Okay, I need to calm myself down, otherwise I'm not going to stop this ever. So, you could also say that, okay, but maybe you would actually want to have something in the center of this stage. Well, in my opinion, everything would be better than a fucking tree. Why not put one of these mushrooms in the center of the stage? Maybe have a different color, like red or something, that like maybe pops out a bit. But wait, something that pops out is something that this stage needs desperately. Because while I'm also on the topic of variety, gameplay variety is alright, but it could have been better. I think this is one of the stages that has a little bit not that great gameplay variety compared to some of the other places, but it's still alright. Also visual variety, I think the stage would have needed like one or two things that pop out a bit more, which wouldn't have been a problem if you could see the octopus station. But if you wanted to have something else, you could have a giant mushroom in the middle of this that maybe doesn't quite block your view, maybe have a little bit on the side over here maybe, and have a giant red mushroom that's maybe tipped over to one side, so you can also figure out which side is which as well. That would have also done some cool stuff. And then maybe you could have scaled that mushroom as well and done some more gameplay stuff involving the side of that mushroom. That could have also been something. But yeah, so much lost potential in this stage. I think this is, everything considered, I think this is what I would say is the verdict for this stage. Lost potential. So much lost potential everywhere. It does have some good spots, but overall it just fails in how it utilizes just the thematic, in my opinion, of having this marsh. Like, yeah, it feels oppressive, feels a bit dark, feels a bit maze-like, but it does not feel fun to play through, so it fails on actually being a fun stage, which is sad. Is really sad. I mean, also on the way of the variety, even though it doesn't have like some of the stuff that pops out, it's still not that bad on variety. I mean, for a stage that is for like a marsh, like swampy stage like this, you could have done worse. You could have easily done worse on like color variety and visual variety. But I think the big problem that the stage has is that a lot of the stage that you look at, like at any given point when you look at the stage, most of the stuff that you see is these rocks that are on the side of this, like these rocks that you stand on. These are like the majority of the stage, and I really don't like that. I've maybe done something about that for more visual variety. So yeah, that's that at least. Gameplay variety was alright. I've already given you the verdict and stuff that could have been done way better. So I think, once again, I wanted this to be a little bit of a shorter video, but it might have actually been the longest one of them all so far. So yeah, that was a failure. But I think the next stage is definitely going to be faster, because I don't think there's actually that much to talk about in Capital Casino. Yeah, Capital Casino is going to be a short one, because I don't think there's that much to talk about in that stage. Anyway, I think we're about it. Overall feel, I actually like the feel of this stage, that it does feel a bit more oppressive and sinister. But like I said, you can have it feel a bit more oppressive and sinister without having to sacrifice the gameplay fun. Because like I said, the level design could have already been so much better if this stuff wasn't here. Anyway, I really need to end it. So if you enjoyed that, like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And also, once again, if there's something that you want to talk about, I read every single comment. You can tell me below. So yeah, that was that. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.